Well, authenticity was our North Star. I mean, we are Mexican American, so it is our community. We all grew up similar to Richard. And so many of the reviews and critics that have written about the movie go, it's the first time we've seen Chicano and Cholo culture portrayed with such love. Because we love our community. And that's how we see, we see everything. It was very easy. I mean, for me, I don't know about for you guys.
Yeah, I grew up pretty close to them. I'm from Wyoming.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm so excited to learn more about what went into the process here of making this incredible film. And Eva, I want to start with you and hear, what was it about this story that really resonated with you, and why was it the perfect fit to be your first feature directorial debut?
Well, yes.
Yes, give it up.
Thank you. Is everybody SAG here? Are y'all everybody SAG? Whoop, whoop. I was just talking about that when I got Taft-Hartley lead into SAG, and I was like, I'm a ride. We all remember that moment, no? It's like a big deal.
Got Taft-Hartley?
Yeah, when I got Taft-Hartley. Yeah.
I remember so well.
Yes. But I have been, thank you, Annie's gonna catch me as if I fall back and you're gonna she's like, I lift, bro. I know. Okay. I know. No, you know what? This story found me. My agent sent me the script. Directing is just like acting. You have to go and audition and get the job and like meet and have a callback. And so my agent sent me the script and she's like, "You'll never get this job." I was like, "Thank you." But because she goes, there's a lot of directors going out for it, like very good directors. It's Searchlight, it's very prestigious, but it's kind of right up your alley, and I think you should throw your hat in the ring. And I hadn't done a feature. I've done 12 years of television, and I really touched every rung of the ladder. Like I did, short films, and then went to TV and did half hour, 1 hour, multicam, single cam, baby pilots, big pilots. Like it was the natural next step for me to do, but I hadn't done it. And y'all know this cycle of like, if you don't have the body of work to prove you can get the job, you can't get the job because you don't have the body of work. And you're like, just give me the fucking job. Because you can do it. And so I read it. I didn't know the story, and I was kind of ashamed because I'm Mexican American, and I was like, he's Mexican American. How do I not know this story? This is like my community. And so I became obsessed with wanting to get the job and went in and fought for it, and I really berated them into to give me the job and pitched them this movie, because the script that I read wasn't this movie. We did a complete rewrite with Linda Chavez, who's an amazing writer. But yeah, I got the job. We rewrote it, redeveloped it, and this is what we ended up with, which we're really proud of. And y'all, we're the most streamed. Somebody help me, because
we're the most streamed movie, Foxlight Searchlight movie. I can't say it either.
Yeah, because I've been drinking.
The most streamed Fox Searchlight film to premiere on platform.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That is incredible.
Yeah.
And obviously we have a whole slew of actors in this audience who want to know, I'm sure, more about the process of casting this film. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, we had a really hard job. As an actor, I knew the opportunity that these two roles would be especially for Latinos. We don't get roles like this. We don't get meaty, juicy roles playing 4 decades, playing all of these colors and amazing, complexities. And, the first time Linda and I sat with the real Richard and Judy, we left that meeting and we go, oh my God, this is a love story. Because Judy wasn't in the original script. I know, crazy. And we immediately said, Judy's going to be the heartbeat of this film. She's going to be the heart of this film. And so as we were casting, we needed somebody to play 4 decades and have the strength. And Annie walked in and was Judy. I mean, she's of the community. She, has her heart on her sleeve, but she'll cut you, And so that was very much like Judy. And with Jesse, and I want them to share their testimonies with you, but like with the role of Richard, that was the hardest. We saw so many people for the role of Richard because he was very complex. The real Richard Montañez, we decided to put it in his perspective. The whole movie's his imagination, and we're in his shoes and his voice and his voiceover. And the real Richard is really witty and charming and kind and scary and tough, and underneath that, like some generational trauma, right? Like, so we had to play that. He code switches. He is so smart, but not educated, he's really funny in scenes, but he has to be really vulnerable with Judy. And so to have all of those colors, what we were like, I don't know how we're going to do this. And a lot of actors would come in and they would do the funny really well. And then another actor would come in and he'd do the vulnerable really well. Another actor would come in, and it was Jesse who had all the gears. And when you direct somebody and they get the note, they take the note and they go, yep, got it. And they do something different. Jesse just was like the clear choice because he could do all of those gears. And that's rare to do this. And it's a rare opportunity. And so we knew we had our Jesse, but we still put him through the ringer, as he'll tell you.
from the very beginning.
No, you tell your story. How did it get to you? Your friends.
Okay, so I'd heard about the story a couple of years probably. I probably saw it in a trade or something like that, and I go, oh man, that's gonna be a really great movie or series. And I go, whoever gets to play Richard is gonna be a massive star, It's just. So I finally got the audition, and I knew of the story, and I go, oh, Eva's directing it, and I read the script, and I go, oh, this is written for me. It's just one of those things where I flowed, and I felt like it was written for me. I literally felt like Linda wrote this script for me, and I did my first self-tape. It was the middle of COVID, it's 2020. And I sent it in, and like immediately I got feedback from Carla Hula, casting director, and she goes, "All right, make a couple of adjustments. I know what he was looking for." Made a couple of adjustments, sent another tape in, sent it to Eva. Eva called me. She goes, "Hey, make these." Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. She was in the middle of working on another movie, and she was talking to me during a break, and I made some adjustments, and I think it was for the director-producer session we did, and she threw another scene at me that like I didn't even have time to prep, and I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. And which is kind of like doing a cold read on a really big scene like that. What scene was it? Do you remember?
Well, because you guys had factory scenes. All the audition scenes were factory scenes, and then I threw in a Judy scene. And then I threw in a gangbanger scene.
Wasn't it the speech at the end?
The tie. I think it was the tie.
Something. Like there was some...
not the tie, in the mirror. And all that stuff. I know there was. I did it on purpose.
Yeah.
I started with who can do the factory and the speech and with the guys, and then I was like, who has the vulnerability with Judy? And once we started adding more scenes, people started falling off, right? Like, oh, they can't do the Judy scenes.
See, I was loving it. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. But let me tell you something. What you just said is really important because when you're working on a set, that's what happens. You have to cold read something. There's so much we improv'd on set. And I go, Jesse and Annie, this isn't in there, but why don't you guys, you say this, you say this, you say this, you say that. And they go, great. And we go and we shoot. And we didn't have time. You don't have time to absorb. Let me have memorized. So to throw that at you in an audition is reality, no?
Yeah. Yeah, and so I did that round, and then I moved on to the next round. I think the next round was testing, chemistry reads, and I knew, I asked my reps, I go, who's reading? And I finally got to everybody, and I go, oh, I know Annie. And then there's another girl, I knew her too. And Annie and I hung out, and the second because we'd known each other, I don't know, like a year and a half from another event. She was in Gentefied, I was a really big fan of hers, and she came over and
he's never said that before, so that's really nice.
Yeah, I take it. That's the only one you're gonna get. She came over, we hung out, and the second we started hanging out, I'm like, oh, this is easy. Like there was nothing to build, and we worked very, very different, Annie and I. So the test kept getting pushed for one reason or another, and then someone got COVID, and we had to push it again.
Yo, the way that my reps were like, what the fuck, you're gonna ruin this. And I was like, I'm always like, no, the universe handles it the way that it needs to. And here we are. So
And then it was the test. You know, it came like, well, it was the way they handled the test and the testing at the studios. Like there was again, it was COVID. So like there was fumigating the room every time there was a new person that came in and to do something, blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, there was like a week or so before we got word, and I saw that Eva and Devon had both followed me on Instagram that week. And I'm like, shit, I booked this.
Yeah. Love that.
But before I booked him, I was like, I called Jesse because this was a very ambitious schedule. And like I said, you know, Jesse had to play 4 different decades, you know, 3 different wigs. And I talked to everybody who tested before they tested, and I said, if you're not ready to go to war with me, and war is against time. It's not with each other. It's like time. We don't have time. We don't have the luxury of time and all this, you know, process. We're going to hit the ground running. We're going to, you know, your 70s, now we're going to jump to the 90s, then we're going to go back to the 80s, then we're going to and Jesse's like, yeah, I'm game. And day one, I mean, we were the first scene, day 0 actually we started, was their tie scene at the Goodwill when he says, you're the best girl, the best person I know. One of the toughest emotional scenes, and that was the first scene that they did on the first day 0, which was crazy. To show up, that's what I'm saying. Ready, go. And it's like, cry, can you cry on this line? And then, no, this line. And they were like, yep, here we go. And try this, let's do it funnier. Annie, add this, you know, and that was set the tone for the 7-week shoot, which was, you know, Jesse was game. Annie?
Me? Let's see. I had heard about the role, I want to say a year prior, because I don't know if you guys, Linda Yvette Chavez, who wrote Gentefied, is one of my best friends, and she had told me about, she's like, oh my God, I just met Eva. She's amazing. Yo, y'all would get along. You guys remind me of each other. I'm like, oh, what are you working on with Eva? She's like, it's called Flamin Hot. And I was like, tight. Do you think, like, is there something in there for me? I don't think so. I was like, no, yeah, for sure, like totally got it. Then the breakdown came out, and I read the script, and immediately every fiber in my being was like, I am the only person that can play this. And I normally am very humble. Like I try and keep my feet to the ground and remind myself like it's everything. It's so much bigger than me. And I remember I was, and he tells me to not, which I love it. It's good. But you know, everybody, like she said, everybody went out for this because we do not get roles like this, especially for people that look like us. That we don't get complex colors and arrays of emotions and like, you know, the humor, the levity, the pain, and I was like, I know that what?
Everyone we knew, everybody we knew, all of our friends that like some of my buddies, and she did the same thing too because she had some of her homies that they would run lines or whatever. Yeah. But I had friends hit me up and go, look, I just read for this, but I think this is you. Like, of course, he goes, I want to book it, but I think this is your part.
And
so,
my ass said, I'm gonna book it. And my homegirl was like, bitch, I want it too. And I was like, no, yeah, for sure, I hear you, but fuck, I don't know how to tell you. I hadn't even got a call back yet. Like, I was like, that's how sure I was. Like, because I know this woman. Like, I grew up in the hood of East LA. Like, everything in the world tells me that I should not be here in front of you guys today doing what I love, accomplishing my dream, you know? So, thank you. So when I read it and I got the chance to like sit across from Eva and work with her, and I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be a blast. This is gonna be a masterclass, and this is gonna be the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life because this is my first feature film, and I'm sitting next to some seasoned ass.
Her first feature film. She said that the day in press, and I was like, why do you keep saying that? That's so dumb. She goes, it was my first, and I was like, what? Because you would never have known. Mm-hmm. Jesse knew a little bit because he had to teach her camera awareness.
Everything. Jesse taught me everything.
Jesse like held her hand, so I never knew. Like he would push her in her light. He'd push her over here. If she was blocking, he'd just like nudge her. Yeah, and Jesse, like the veteran, really helped her out there. So sweet, Jesse. Oh. I mean, he also fucked around a lot. Like he would like make her mess up her takes and.
And Eva would be like, Annie, what's going on? And I was so afraid to be like, well, Jesse's fucking with me. Like, I didn't want to be. I was like, no, yeah, I'm sorry. I can do it. Okay, so how you had said it the first time, and then I did it wrong. Got it.
There was
okay.
one scene, I don't think Eva knows this. There was one scene where I kind of held her face, and it's like, I was trying to convince you to do the Cheeto. I don't remember which scene it was, but I held her face, and she grabs my hands and kind of pulls them down to her chest. And as she's talking, it's her coverage, I start lifting her hands up, and she looks and kind of like, what the fuck's going on? And like, she's just trying to hold her hands down, kind of keep the scene going at the same time. And she goes, dude, what was that? I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
It's like, Annie, why are you looking? What's going on? Are you okay? And I'm like, I don't know. I got, okay, action. We got this.
Jesse.
Now, I gotta ask, you guys are playing people who are real people, right? You're playing characters based off of real people. What was that like? And did you actually get to meet Richard and Judy?
Yeah. I got to meet Judy a couple times. I went to her house, and she made a lavish dinner with all of her grandchildren and her kids. And but I just felt like I couldn't like pop the bubble and like get to what I needed to know. So I took her out to breakfast, and I remember we had a really beautiful conversation because of what you read in the script. You know, she's goes through all this stuff, but you meet her today and she's so poised and put together and wears Chanel and like, you know, and very like woman of faith and just like really beautiful and kind and I remember, you know, the first thing that she said when she looked at me was like, she had tears in her eyes, and she's like, I'm really nervous for this. And I was like, why? She's like, I've worked really hard to absolve my past to be the woman that you see before you today, this Christian woman. And I don't know if I want to bring that back up. And I was like, and it just reminded me of all the trauma that, you know, our ancestors go through and our parents go through, like all the stories that we don't hear until we're adults. And we're like, I wish you would have shared that with me because I wouldn't have made that same mistake, or I would have known that that's okay to make a mistake. It doesn't define me. And so I sat with her and I held her hands and I was like, girl, I am you. Like, I will never do you dirty. I'm going to do my best to paint with all the beautiful colors that you have in your life.
Oh, that is beautiful.
And it's her testimony to the world, you know, that like you're a product, you can be a product of your environment, but you can also change and grow and change that environment, shift a culture.
What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I met with him like for 2 hours. I had like between prepping and getting ready to go, I had about 2 hours with him and a family. And it was interesting because, you know, what the movie's about, him and Judy and Richard's, you know, he's also kind of like worked very hard to have his persona now, you know. So I came over to his house and he greeted me at the door. Gret me? Is that a word? Gret? He gret me? No. Gret me's not past, right? Did I gret me? Not a word.
I thought she drank, not you.
I'm on mushrooms. They greeted me at the door, and why are you laughing at me? And it was kind of like a healthy Richard kind of like sized me up a little bit. It's like, all right, this is the guy, the first time you're meeting me in real life, this is the guy who's going to play me. And it was, I knew what it was, and it was like, but it was all healthy. And we sat and talked for a couple hours and told me about his life and work. And like, I asked him, you know, not of anything like digging questions, because I had already had an idea of what I wanted to do. About his work life and stuff with Judy, and if he carried anything in his pockets for work, and just kind of like little pet names for each other and slang that they use throughout the decades, because slang is always changing. And then I had a conversation with him. It's like, all right, look, we're talking about the movie. And it's like, you know, it's a movie, and then we have an hour and a half to tell 40 years of your life, more than that, 40 years of your life. And there's going to be, you know, from the filmmaker, me too, there's going to be some changes. Like there's going to be some embellishments. There's going to be some creative liberties that we'll take just to kind of move the story along. Like whether it's improvisations that you may or may not have ever said, there's going to be things that we do just to kind of keep it entertaining. It's not a documentary, you know, it's a movie. It's a movie entertainment business. And I go, I'm also not going to be doing an imitation of you. I'm not going to be mimicking your voice, your movements, your gestures. I'm not going to be doing any of that. I'm going to be doing my version of your story. And that's the most honest way that I can do it. And like the way that Eva and I had mapped it out and planned it out, it's like, you just have to trust us. So my main purpose of that first interaction was to put them at ease, that we were going to take care of them and their story, and they were like, oh, okay. And I could still see that there was a little bit of apprehension especially from Richard, because it's like, who's this dude coming in my
But
house?
it's intensely vulnerable to have your life on screen. And it's kind of out of your hands at this point, but they were on set a lot and they were amazing, and all the specificity in the script is from them. But there was one scene that they did, and
There's a scene where Rich and Judy are in the car, and Rich is about to get arrested, right before the court scene, and Annie and I did a bunch of different takes of it. We're improvising. She hits me, and they call cut. And the video village where everyone's watching the monitors, Richard and Judy and the family were there, and we walk around and everyone's crying. Like Richard and Judy crying. Eva was crying. Eva cries every day. It's true story. We all cried every day. It was just the way it was. And we get back there, and Judy's going, oh my God, that's what happened? I hit him just like that when it happened, and like everything we did. And Richard and I hugged, and he looked at me and he goes, okay, I get it. I get what you guys are doing, because it's like they from their perspective, like we know the puzzle pieces of the puzzle that we're putting together, and the little by little that we start but all these little micro pieces, they start to become the macro, and they started to see the picture, and they started to go, okay.
Oh, wow. I mean, one of the things that I really loved about this film also was just how enthusiastic Richard was about his work, how hardworking he was, how he was willing to grow and learn. And I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but like growing up in a Latino family, like you're taught, I feel like that you got to work harder than everybody else. And like there's like this hustle mentality, I feel like, that you guys really represented in the film that I really connected with. And I was wondering if that's something that you guys as well feel, and how you brought that into the film and into your roles.
I will say for me, it was purposeful, because actually Richard was like that. He actually said he was the first person in his family to get a job with benefits as the janitor, and they had a barbecue, they celebrated, and his dad did say that, like, if you mop those floors, you mop them like a montañet. Like, his dad made him have pride in the smallest thing. So when Jesse's like cleaning really hard and mopping really fast, like Richard really did that. That was a story he told us. So we wanted to make sure that was in the movie. But also, I mean, as a woman, as a female film director, as a Latina, as a person of color, we have to work twice as hard. We have to work twice as fast. We have to work twice as cheap. We have to be twice as good. And that's just the reality. And so I don't take a victim mentality of like, patriarchy. Like, no, that's the world. We're not going to reverse it tomorrow. So I'm just going to I have no problem out hustling anybody in the room. And I think we have to sometimes take that mentality, especially as women, like, it's not fair. No, there's no gender equity in any industry, much less entertainment industry. So show up, work twice as hard, and out hustle everybody. And those are the people who are successful in this business. There's a lot of not that talented actors in this business that will run circles around the talented ones, because they have no problem out hustling them. And that's why these two were a dream to work with, was because I had the conversation beforehand of like, I don't want this, like, I'm so tired. We're all tired. We're all hot. It was, dead of summer in Albuquerque. They're in wigs, they're in costume, they're
Polyester,
70s, and they were like, yeah. And not one day did they complain. And Jesse was in 99% of the scenes. And it wasn't until I was looking at dailies that I saw him falling asleep in one take. So he was so tired, and he never said it. And that's what it means to out hustle and to show up every day. So that was my mentality, but that was also Richard's mentality, and that was their work ethic. But you guys can talk about the hustle.
Yeah, we went hard. We shot it like this was. Eve also said like part of going to war was we had we were shooting like a TV schedule. This like the studios wanted to cut a bunch of scenes because they didn't think we could make it, right? So that's part of the hustle too. Is like Eve was like we'll do a day zero. We'll fit everything in. We're gonna get everything. And we were, I think, at the end of the shoot we were ahead. Yeah.
That's why we had that one extra Saturday to reshoot one scene. They go, do you want to reshoot anything? You're ahead. And the studio kept wanting us to cut the script down, and I was like, nope, I'm not dropping one scene. We need every single scene. And it was because these two hustled.
The scene, what scene did we redo?
That we redid was him yelling at Bacho, like, respect me, and then Judy tells Bacho off. we couldn't get through the scene the first time because Emilio, who plays Vacho, was sobbing like a baby. Sobbing. And he's like, I know, it's not it's not even, I'm not supposed to be crying. You're supposed to be crying. He couldn't get through it because he said, wow, this monologue that Jesse was doing to him was things he wished he had told his father. And so to hear it, he couldn't keep it together. And poor Jesse on his coverage is like, dude, got to get through my monologue. You got to stop crying. And how many times do you say sorry?
Every take? Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
go. No, I'm sorry. And then he goes, okay, go.
I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, I think we liked what we did the second time around because it was a happy medium between, like, the heavy shit that we were all doing and then, like, the stuff we go, okay, I think we can. I was like, she called me. She goes, oh, I don't know. I'm really kind of scared to ask you this, but would you be okay reshooting the scene? And I think it was like, I think you were saying the background was better too, and we shot it.
We needed better angle on you,
Yeah.
camera angles, and we couldn't do it in the speed we did it that day. But also, Emilio was like, it was all over.
Yeah. And I had almost 0 days off. I had like a day and a half off, and like some like parts of Sundays. Because we would rehearse. Like, there was never a full day off because we would rehearse. Like, new actors would come into town on our own time. We would go to Eva's. We'd run the lines. We'd kind of like get a feel for each other, block it out a little bit, because we knew she knew what all the locations were going to be. So we and I was fucking tired. And like that Saturday would have been like one of my only Saturdays off. I'm like, no, let's go, man. Let's make it work. Let's get this. We're gonna make this movie work. We don't like. We've said it before. Like, we don't like every scene has to work. We don't have the luxury of failing on this movie.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was ecstatic. On days that I wasn't working, I would sit on set because I just would like want to hear.
I was like, Annie, you're off. She's like, I know, but I'm here.
I would just be sitting there. I mean, I just really wanted to learn, and Eva was such a brilliant director. Right before, she's so specific. She knew exactly what she wanted. Sometimes the ego of the actor can take over in scenes, and I'm a very emotionalized actor, and a lot of those scenes easily could have gone straight to my ego and made, done these. And I there was a point where Eva was like, okay, I get it, but I need you to pull it back. Like, she was giving me really specific direction. And at first I was like confused, but luckily I had just watched, I might have told you this, I had just watched a Spielberg documentary where he's talking, where Liam Neeson is talking about how Spielberg is directing him at the opening of Schindler's List, where he's smoking the cigar and putting it down. And Spielberg is like, you're going to pull it up on this one, you put it down this one, you're going to blow it on this one, you're going to do, and Neeson's like, I'm Liam Neeson, like, I know what I'm doing, right? And Spielberg is like, for sure, you're first chair violinist, I'm the conductor. First chair can blow the conductor out the water, but it's first chair's job to make it look like it's first chair's choice. And so when she was directing me and giving me such specificity, and I just was like, you're hired to do one thing, trust. And she taught me so much about filmmaking in those moments. Once I was like, okay, I'm first chair. Can I take this direction and make it look like it came from my frickin' sacrum, like my sacral, And
you did.
And
you did.
Thank you. It worked. She's so smart. So it was tough, but
well, and I will add to that because this is a big fault that actors fall into, and because I'm on both sides all the time. Is a director has the total vision of the film. And so you're one piece of a very big machine, and often not the most important piece in certain moments, right? And so, there's a lot of actors that dig in and they're like, I want to do it this way. And you're like, we can't have that much emotion here because in 4 scenes from now, Jesse has this huge emotion, so I can't have you crying, and then the next scene he's crying, and then we see a bigger puzzle. And so, but I've had shitty directors, as we all have, and they lead you astray, and you're like, I knew I should have followed my instinct. So it's about that communication and trust with your director to make sure. I mean, Tony Shalhoub, how great was Tony Shalhoub? And he came in at the end. Because Enrico only shot like 3 days on the movie, and he had to do those like drunk history scenes, where he's a cholo, and that was like his first day, first scene. And this was a vision I've always had. I knew how they were going to be. I knew they were going to come out amazing. But and he came to set, and I was like, so it's this thing. And I explained it to him. He goes, great. He does a scene. He's like, you pendejos. And he had to memorize Jesse's voice and then be Jesse in the scene, but being Enrico. Like, it was very complicated. And he came, and he was like, got it, did it. He did it. And it wasn't until we finished the scene that he goes, so what did I just say? And I said, wow, you really trust me? And he goes, of course. Like he just said, of course. Why wouldn't I trust you? And then when he saw the outcome, he was like, oh, that's what it looks like. Like, that was complete trust, because we had already had a camaraderie of 6 weeks of shooting together. He didn't. It was day 1, 3 days, in and out, bye. And it's Tony Shalhoub. So you're like, oh my God, it's Tony Shalhoub. And I was like, I hope you're game to do this. He's like, yeah. Because he trusted that I had a vision for the film, and he went along with it. And that's a relationship you have to establish with your director and your cast.
Oh, that is incredible. Oh my goodness. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you about was, you could just tell that you guys had such an authentic portrayal of the Chicano community in Los Angeles. Like, that was such a central part of this film. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how you did that.
Well, authenticity was our North Star. I mean, we are Mexican American, so it is our community. We all grew up similar to Richard, and even the Cholos. Like, I fought to have these guys in the movie, Fabian Alomar and Mario Ponce, and they're like Cholos they have a show called Cholos Try on YouTube. Like, I saw that show and I was like, I want those guys. Like, I want those guys. And Searchlight's like, no, it's Albuquerque. We're just gonna get extras, and I didn't want that. I didn't want a caricature of a Cholo. And so many of the reviews and critics that have written about the movie go, it's the first time we've seen Chicano and Cholo culture portrayed with such love. Because we love our community, and that's how we see everything. It was very easy. I mean, for me, I don't know about for you guys.
Yeah, I grew up pretty close to them. I'm from Wyoming. Yeah, it's pretty. The authenticity that was there for me too. Yeah.
Now, I'd love to go down the line and ask if you guys had a favorite, maybe a more challenging, or just a more memorable moment while filming this movie.
The entire movie. Somebody who else asked that the other day, and we all answered the same way. We're like, there wasn't one. It was every day, because we all carried the weight of our community with us every day on set. Like I said, we don't get a lot of bites at the apple, and so I was like, we can't get this wrong. That we were trying to figure out the last time a major studio did a Latino story about us and by us, because it was almost all Latinos behind the camera as well. And it was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, let's give it up.
Yes to the Latino crew, but it was almost 20 years ago. And we're like, oh, we can't have a movie every 20 years. And so we felt that pressure to get it right. And so for me, every day was difficult. I say production-wise, building the factory for me, that factory we built, that was not existing. Our production designer built every single part, and it ran Cheetos, and it ran Doritos, and it ran potato chips, and we had amazing Brandon Mendez and Cabot McMullen were our production designers. So that was like the biggest challenge for me as a director. But you guys, it was just, what was it?
Believing that I belonged there, I think, was probably the most. But these guys were freaking amazing. Like, not for a second did I feel like I didn't. The second I stepped on that set, the second I met Eva in person, like, she grabbed me like a big bear. She's like, oh, Annie, I'm so happy to see you. I was like, okay, I can do this. It's happening. It's real. It's the best time of my life.
It's like Judy in the movie. I was like, be great. And she's like, okay, I will.
I think anytime, well, for me, it's like the whole thing. Because I had wig changes. Like, we would do wig changes in the middle of the day, sometimes twice, where it was, I had people poking and prodding at me throughout the day.
Mostly Eva.
Mostly, the costumes and hair would come in and do the thing, and then Eva would come right behind him and go, okay, yeah. She gets final touches. But we would, if something was challenging or something wasn't working, we would rewrite. We rewrote every day, almost every scene. And it was like, nope, that's not working. And I go, I know. Or I'd say, this is not working for me. She goes, I know. So, and then her and I, for some reason, we have this like cosmic connection. Like, we were same brain. We're twins in a past life or something, and the factory is big, and she would go, Jesse, and I'd look at her and I go like that, and I'd nod, and I knew what she was saying, or I'd look and I go, and she would go, and I go, okay, you know what I mean?
He's like, not like that, not like that.
No.
All right, I'm gonna do it the other way. Yeah. But because we had so much communication as well before, we had some good prep.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just one of those movies where we got to, and I also got to do everything I wanted to do. Everything. Yeah. So like, this is kind of like I've been doing this for 23 years, and
No, how great does he look? He's only 30.
I know. And so throughout my years, I've gotten to do tons of like really great characters, like some quirky, some funny, some lots of scary, but everything. But this is the first time I got to do everything in one movie. And like I rarely get chances, and on top of that, people never know where to put me. It's like, he's Latino, but he's not super Mexican. He's like sometimes not Mexican enough, and can he play Cuban or this and that? So like this it doesn't matter. Like we were playing a Mexican American family, but we're an American family at the same time, where this story crosses cultural lines. So like it doesn't, like everyone in here, like I feel like everyone watches it can relate to it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
I wanted to know what you hope people, especially Latinos, take away from this film.
Well, I hope they're inspired. I mean, there's not a lot of feel-good movies out there, and I always knew I wanted to make a feel-good. I wanted you to feel good walking out of the theater. So inspired by, Richard's journey. I also want them to see our community, especially, see themselves reflected back. That they can identify and see themselves on screen and go, wow, if that guy did it, if that guy went through all of that and not only survived but thrived in spite of it, imagine what I can do. And that's been kind of the feedback. And everybody on social media is like just bawling, leaving us messages going, I just saw it and it was amazing. Did you guys cry? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, good.
Who didn't cry? Yeah, I'm looking
I hope that people are reminded that superheroes look like a bunch of different things. They don't just wear capes or stethoscopes. Sometimes they're holding mops. Sometimes they're walking our dogs, taking care of our kids. They're parking our cars. Picking up our dishes. I think oftentimes we don't remember that those are the local superheroes, and they're the ones that.
I will say that's the other thing about the movie is like, yeah, there's racism in it, there's classism in the movie, but it's not that we focus on in the movie. It's how Richard handles it, and he handles it with like dignity and grace, and you're just like, how that guy's, And as a matter of fact, we had a dinner honoring us, and Richard and Judy came, and outside at the valet stand. This was last week at the valet. He's standing at the valet stand waiting for his sports car, and somebody gave him the valet ticket. And he told you this? Did he tell you that? Yeah. I said, yeah. And he gave him the valet ticket. But he goes, it happens to him all the time. He goes, you can't wear a suit standing next to a valet stand being Mexican. Like somebody will give you a valet ticket. And the guy, gives him a ticket, and he goes, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not the valet. And he goes, oh my God, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. And he goes, hey, ain't nothing wrong with being a valet. Thank you. Like he actually was like, thank you. It's a beautiful job. Thank you for thinking I'm the valet. Like he didn't go like, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. Like that dignity and grace. And he's like, hey, nothing wrong with being a valet. Valets are good.
I've had that happen a lot. People toss me keys a lot. Toss me keys. All right, keep it close. Like, yeah, I'm gonna keep it close next time. Like, you better watch out. I'm gonna keep it real close to my house.
What do you want people to get?
A couple things. I think a sense of solidarity. Not especially within our Latino community, but with all audiences. I think that the sense that this is all of our stories. That everyone relates to it. I've had people from all cultures, DM me and us that it's like this is my story. This is like a lot of people go like, it's kind of weird, but they go like, you remind me of my dad. but it's an honor, you know. It's like, and it's really beautiful that that people see themselves in us, you know, when sometimes we feel invisible.
Yes, give it up. I mean, you guys really nailed it. You really nailed it. I want to thank you so much for your time. I want to thank everybody here.
I will say you still have to stream it because when you push play on Hulu and Disney Plus, you're not just watching the movie, you're saying yes, and that's your voice to Hollywood saying we want more stories like this. That's what's important. So